The alien world of Viralia stretched endlessly under a sky painted in shades of violet and gold. Towers of polished crystal reflected the sun's strange glow, and flying vehicles glided silently between them. The people of Viralia were tall, elegant, and strong. They valued strength, courage, and public honor above all else. Princess Liara was one of them, a sharp mind, skilled in diplomacy, and feared for her cleverness. Yet, she often felt trapped in a world that praised loud displays and brash actions. Liara had been preparing for years for a union the Royal Council demanded, a marriage that would strengthen ties with the human species, an unpredictable, fragile-seeming race. Liara's suitors, all Virilian nobles, tried in vain to impress her. They boasted of their battles, their victories, their wealth. Liara listened politely, but inside she laughed at their arrogance. None of them understood her, and none could match her quiet determination. Then, he arrived. Ethan, a human, tall, lean, and entirely unassuming. His dark hair fell slightly into his eyes, and he carried himself with a calm confidence that felt entirely different from the Virelians' proud postures. When he first stepped onto the royal platform, the council whispered behind their hands. "He is too quiet. He shows no fire." "A human? He looks ordinary, fragile even." Liara's eyes, however, lingered on him. There was something strange in the way he moved, not clumsy but careful, observant, thoughtful. He didn't need to shout or boast. He simply existed, noticing everything, adjusting to it, understanding it quietly. For the first time in years, Liara felt curiosity spark in her chest. The human delegation had come in peace, with gifts and a message of goodwill. Ethan, their chosen representative, had not tried to flaunt anything. While the Virelians dressed in elaborate ceremonial robes, he wore simple, well-fitted clothing that allowed him to move freely. He greeted the council politely, answered their questions honestly, and yet, he never raised his voice. Liara watched, him sensing that this quiet man might be more than he seemed. Days passed before their first private meeting. Liara had expected awkwardness, perhaps nervousness. Instead, she found Ethan reading quietly in the palace library, surrounded by books that reached higher than most humans could imagine. "I hope I'm not intruding," Liara said, stepping lightly across the polished floor. Ethan looked up and smiled faintly. "You're not. I was just trying to understand your world a little better." Liara tilted her head. "And what do you see?" "Order," he replied simply. "Discipline, beauty, and a lot of expectation, but also a kind of fear of not being enough." Liara blinked. No human had ever spoken to her like that. It wasn't flattery, nor fear, nor admiration. It was observation, honest, quiet, and precise. "You notice a lot," she said softly. "I try to," he answered. "Sometimes I think the quiet ones see the most." Liara laughed lightly. It was a rare sound in the palace. "You are unlike any human I've read about. Most are loud, proud, desperate to prove themselves." Ethan shook his head. "Some are, yes, but not all. Some wait, watch, learn, and then act when it matters." There was a pause. Liara considered him, trying to guess what lay behind his calm eyes. There was something hidden, a strength that did not shout. She wondered if it was courage or intelligence or something neither she nor any Virelian could measure. The day of the wedding arrived. The grand hall gleamed with crystal and light. The air buzzed with excitement, curiosity, and the subtle undercurrent of skepticism. The council and citizens alike watched Ethan carefully. He did not flinch under their scrutiny. He stood beside Liara quietly, and when he bowed it was precise, respectful, and calm. The ceremony began with music unlike anything on earth. Vibrations of strange instruments filled the air, resonating through the hall. Liara's heart beat faster, not from fear, but from anticipation. She glanced at Ethan. He watched everything, his expression calm, as if he understood the importance of the moment without needing to prove it. As they exchanged words of promise, Liara felt a mix of amusement and wonder. The crowd expected fireworks, of drama from him. But he remained steady like a river flowing through a storm. And yet, in that steadiness there was power. The kind that did not need to shout, that did not rely on strength or fame. After the vows, the hall erupted in applause. The Virelians were polite, but many shook their heads. A human as a prince, they muttered. Too quiet, too soft. He cannot lead. He cannot fight. Liara, however, saw something different. She saw a calm that could steady a storm, a mind that could think where others panicked, a heart that could act where others hesitated. She realized that this quiet human could be her partner in ways no Virelian ever could. The celebration moved outside to the palace gardens. Light from the twin suns reflected off the crystal fountains, and the air smelled of alien blooms. Ethan walked beside Liara, not trying to impress, not trying to entertain, but simply walking, simply being. Do you find this world strange? Liara asked. Ethan looked around, thoughtful. Strange, yes. Beautiful, yes. Overwhelming sometimes. But I think I can learn it. And maybe I can learn you too. Liara laughed. You speak as if it is a puzzle to solve. Perhaps it is, he said, and puzzles are best approached with patience. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the gardens, Liara felt a strange sense of anticipation. This human, quiet as he was, seemed ready to face the world in his own way. She could feel it, something hidden, waiting to be discovered. Later that night, as the palace quieted and the guests retired, Liara found herself on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights sparkled like stars, and the wind carried a chill from the distant mountains. Ethan appeared beside her silently without announcement. Do you often come here alone? He asked. Sometimes, she admitted. I like to think, to see the city from above. It makes everything seem smaller, simpler. He nodded, watching the horizon. I like that too. Perspective matters. For a long moment they stood in silence side by side. Liara felt a strange comfort in his presence, as if the quiet human beside her carried a shield that no one else could see. Tomorrow, she said softly, the real challenges begin. Ethan looked at her calm as ever. I'm ready, he said simply. Liara smiled. The council may have doubted him. The people may have mocked him. But she, Liara, could feel that this quiet human held something extraordinary, something unseen, something that could change everything. And as the twin suns set, painting the sky with colors no human name could fully capture, Liara realized that marrying Ethan was not a mistake. It was the beginning of something new, something that could reshape her world forever. She did not yet know how powerful he truly was, or what hidden strength lay within him. But for the first time in her life she felt hope and excitement and curiosity, all for a man who never raised his voice, who never tried to shine, and yet somehow already outshone everyone in her eyes. The quiet human stood beside her, and, in his calm, unassuming way, the future already seemed different. Something was coming, something neither she nor the council could yet see. But Liara knew deep in her heart that when it did, the quiet human would not just survive. It would be his moment to reveal the power that had been hidden all along. The morning after the wedding, the palace of Virelia was unusually quiet. The streets glimmered under the twin suns, and citizens prepared for the day ahead, unaware of the tension growing beneath the city's calm. Rumors had started circulating that a rebel faction was gathering beyond the mountains. They were dissatisfied with the royal family's rule and sought to challenge the established order. Princess Liara, ever alert and cautious, immediately called for her personal guards. She insisted on preparing for the possibility of an attack. We cannot ignore the signs, she said firmly. We must be ready for anything. The council, however, waved off her concerns. It is nothing more than whispers, Princess, one noble said, his tone dripping with arrogance. The humans are too weak. They will be of no concern. Liara's eyes narrowed. Weak or not, our guest is now my husband. He will be with me, and I will not underestimate anyone again. Ethan stood silently beside her as he had so often. The council noticed his quiet presence and, as expected, began to mock him in subtle ways. "The human will do nothing," one whispered. "He is merely decoration." But Liara paid no attention. She knew Ethan's quiet nature was different. It was not weakness. It was observation, patience, and calm, a strength the Varelians often overlooked. Later that day, Liara decided to take Ethan on a tour of the outer defenses. She wanted him to see the extent of the city's fortifications and understand the risks they faced. The walls were made of a shining material that seemed alive, humming with energy. Towers bristled with defensive mechanisms, and elite guards patrolled constantly. Ethan followed her closely, his eyes scanning the structures. "Your defenses are impressive," he said softly. "But I notice gaps. Places where someone could exploit the system if they knew what to look for." Liara raised an eyebrow. "Gaps? How so?" "Here," Ethan said, pointing to a section near the northern gate. "The energy shields are strong, but if attackers synchronize their strike with the shift in sunlight, there is a moment when it weakens. It's small, but it exists. And here," he continued, moving to the main training ground, "the patrol schedule is predictable. Not a major risk, but the clever could use it." Liara stared at him, impressed despite herself. "You notice details most of us would miss." Ethan shrugged. "I pay attention. Observation is as important as action, especially when lives are at stake." The princess felt a strange sense of reassurance. Here was a human who did not need to shout or fight to make an impact. His mind alone offered value beyond what the council could see. That evening, news arrived that the rebels had made their first move. A small group had infiltrated the outskirts of the city, attempting to sabotage supply lines. The palace guards were sent immediately to intercept them. Liara prepared to lead the mission, as was her duty. But the council again dismissed Ethan's presence. "You will remain in the palace," the council insisted. "There is nothing he can do in the field." Liara's gaze swept across the council chamber. "He may be quiet, but I will not leave him behind," she said. "He is my husband, and he will be with me." Reluctantly, the council allowed Ethan to accompany her. Some whispered that the human would only slow them down, but Liara ignored them. She knew better. The group moved swiftly through the city gates and into the rocky outskirts. Ethan walked close to Liara, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Unlike the Varelians, who relied on strength and flashy movements, Ethan's quiet focus made him seem almost invisible. When the rebels struck, they were ready. Shadows darted between rocks and strange energy weapons glowed in the dim light. The Varelians reacted quickly, their skill and training evident in every movement. But the rebels were clever, and for a moment it seemed that the battle might tip against them. It was then that Ethan's instincts took over. He drew the ceremonial blade the council had given him, a simple weapon, elegant but unremarkable. The moment he gripped it, a faint glow began to pulse along the blade's edge. No one noticed at first. The Varelians were too busy defending themselves, and the rebels were focused on their attack. But as Ethan moved, the blade responded to him. Each swing was precise, efficient, and impossibly fast. He struck with perfect timing, disarming enemies without unnecessary force. The rebels faltered, unable to predict his movements. Their energy weapons fired, but Ethan's blade seemed to deflect them almost instinctively. He moved like water, flowing around obstacles, striking only when necessary. Liara watched, her eyes wide. She had trained in combat her entire life, yet she had never seen anything like this. The quiet human beside her was not weak. He was extraordinary. When a rebel lunged at her from behind, Ethan reacted without hesitation. In a single fluid motion, he intercepted the attack. The energy pulse of the weapon clashed with his blade, sending a spark of light into the air. The rebel stumbled back, defeated. Liara felt a rush of admiration. "Ethan," she called, "how are you doing this?" He did not answer immediately. His focus remained on the enemies around them, yet she sensed a calm confidence radiating from him. "I am just using what I know," he said finally, his voice steady, observing, anticipating. "That is all." The battle continued, and the rebels began to retreat. Ethan's presence changed everything. The Varelians, who had underestimated him, began to adjust their tactics, inspired by his calm efficiency. Together they pushed the rebels back, securing the area. After the skirmish, Liara and Ethan returned to the palace. The city's citizens whispered in awe about the human who had fought alongside the princess. The council, however, was reluctant to admit they had misjudged him. "You are not like any human we have known," Liara said quietly as they walked through the palace gardens later that night. "There is something different about you, something I cannot explain." Ethan looked at her, his expression calm. "Perhaps it is not about being different. Perhaps it is about knowing oneself. Humans have strengths that are not always obvious. Patience, observation, focus. These are powerful tools, even if they are not loud." Liara smiled. She felt a deep respect and admiration for this quiet human. He had not shouted, had not boasted, had not needed to impress anyone. But in his calm, steady way, he had proven himself. That night, the palace remained quiet. Liara could not sleep, her mind replaying the day's events. Ethan's hidden strength had been revealed, but she sensed there was more to come. Something waiting within him. Something even the Virelians could not comprehend. Meanwhile, Ethan walked the halls of the palace alone. He was not restless. He was observing, thinking, learning. The glow of his blade lingered in his mind. A strange energy he did not yet fully understand. Humans had long been underestimated, he knew. But moments like today showed the truth. Quiet minds could unleash power in ways others could not imagine. He paused near the training grounds, watching the Virelian soldiers practice. Their movements were precise, strong, and beautiful, but rigid. He understood patterns, timing, weaknesses. One day, perhaps, he would teach them something new. Liara appeared beside him silently. "You think too much," she said softly, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Or perhaps not enough," Ethan replied, smiling faintly. "Sometimes the mind must wait for the right moment to act." Liara shook her head, laughing lightly. "You are a puzzle I am determined to solve, Ethan. I do not know if I should fear you or admire you." "You need not fear," he said quietly. "And admiration? Well, that is up to you." As they stood together under the twin moons rising over the city, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The quiet human had revealed a hidden strength, and the world around them would never be the same. The rebels might retreat for now, but their ambitions remained. And somewhere in the shadows beyond the mountains, other forces were already preparing. Forces that would test Ethan's calm, quiet power, and force him to reveal even more of what lay within. Liara watched him, a mixture of curiosity and pride filling her heart. The quiet human she had married had already changed the course of her world, and she sensed deep in her bones that this was only the beginning. The calm had ended and the storm was approaching. And when it came, Ethan's blade and his hidden power would be the key to everything. The morning sun rose over Virelia, painting the sky in warm shades of violet and gold. The city had returned to a tense calm after the skirmish with the rebels. Yet Princess Liara knew the peace was fragile. The rebel faction had retreated, but they would not give up easily. She also knew that Ethan's power, the quiet strength he had shown, was still largely hidden, waiting for the right moment to fully awaken. The Palace Council, despite witnessing Ethan's skill, still treated him with caution. Many whispered behind their hands. "A human cannot carry the weight of our world," one said. His success was chance, not strength. Liara ignored them. She had seen the truth. Humans could be underestimated, but their quiet resilience often concealed extraordinary power. She looked at Ethan now as he observed the city from the balcony, the wind stirring his dark hair. He seemed calm, almost unshakable, but she could sense the energy building within him, a hidden strength that was still growing. "Ethan," Liara said softly, stepping beside him, "the council is uneasy. They do not understand what you can do." He looked at her with a calm expression. "They will understand when the time comes," he said. "Patience is important. Rushing will not reveal everything." Before Liara could respond, a messenger arrived, panting and carrying a hollow tablet. "Princess Liara, the rebels are attacking the northern district. Civilians are in danger." Liara's eyes narrowed. "Ethan, we must go, now." He nodded silently, following her as they gathered a small group of elite guards. The northern district was a dense part of the city, filled with twisting streets, markets, and homes. Chaos had already begun. People screamed, energy weapons glowed in the distance, and smoke rose from overturned stalls. As they entered the fray, Ethan moved with quiet precision. He observed everything: the positions of enemies, the flow of citizens, the weak points in the rebels' formation. While the Varelians relied on strength and flashy maneuvers, Ethan's approach was different. He anticipated movements, striking only when necessary, moving with a fluid grace that seemed almost otherworldly. The rebels, seeing the human among the princess's guards, assumed he would be easy to defeat. They had no idea what waited within him. The first attack came suddenly. A group of rebels armed with energy lances charged from the left alley. The Varelian guards reacted, but Ethan was already in motion. He drew his ceremonial blade, and the faint glow along its edge flared brightly. Time seemed to slow for those watching. The blade moved in a controlled arc, deflecting the energy lances with a precision that no Varelian could match. Sparks flew as the lances collided with the glowing edge, and one by one the rebels were disarmed and sent retreating. Liara's breath caught in her throat. She had trained in combat for years, yet she had never seen anything like this. Ethan's quiet focus, combined with the blade's hidden energy, made him a force unlike any other. But the battle was far from over. More rebels poured into the district, attacking from every direction. Civilians scattered and buildings trembled under the energy blasts. Liara realized that strategy alone would not be enough. They needed to work together. "Ethan," she called, "we need to form a defensive line here. Protect the civilians." He nodded, and without hesitation he moved to the center of the street. The blade's glow intensified, reacting to his calm focus. With precise movements, he guided the guards, blocking attacks and creating space for civilians to escape. His blade seemed to extend his will, a physical representation of his quiet strength. The rebels faltered, unable to predict his movements. Every strike was measured, every motion deliberate. Where Varelians might have relied on brute force, Ethan relied on instinct, timing, and understanding. Slowly, the tide of battle began to turn. Liara fought beside him, amazed at their synergy. She moved swiftly, striking with skill, while Ethan's presence guided the flow of the fight. Together they became a single unit, anticipating each other's actions without needing words. In the midst of the chaos, a rebel leader appeared, larger and more heavily armed than the others. He wielded a strange staff that emitted a pulsing energy. He charged toward Ethan, confident in his superiority. Ethan did not flinch. He gripped his blade tightly, and for the first time the hidden power within him seemed to fully awaken. The glow expanded, surrounding him in a faint aura of energy. When he moved, the air seemed to bend slightly around him, and the rebel leader's staff sparks fizzled before they could strike. Liara watched in awe as Ethan met the leader's charge. The clash was brief but decisive. Ethan's blade moved faster than the eye could follow, disarming the leader and forcing him to the ground. He did not strike to kill, only to neutralize, demonstrating control as well as power. The remaining rebels, seeing their leader defeated by a human, faltered. Their attacks became disorganized, and the Varelian guards, inspired by Ethan's calm strength, pushed forward with renewed determination. One by one, the rebels were captured or driven away. When the battle ended, the northern district was safe, though scarred by the chaos. Civilians cautiously emerged from hiding, whispering stories about the human who had fought with calm and precision, guiding the defenders and protecting them all. Liara approached Ethan, her eyes shining with pride and amazement. I never imagined such power," she said. "You are more than I could have ever expected." Ethan lowered his blade, the glow fading. "It is not just power," he said quietly. "It is control, patience, and focus. Strength alone is not enough. Understanding makes it meaningful." Liara nodded, absorbing his words. She had always believed that strength and courage were shown through force. But Ethan had demonstrated something different, something more profound. Back at the palace, the council gathered to discuss the events. Some members could not hide their astonishment. "A human? Fighting like that?" one whispered. "How is this possible?" Liara ignored their whispers. She knew the truth. Ethan's strength was not ordinary. Humans had hidden potential that the Varelians could not yet comprehend. And she sensed that this battle was only the beginning. Later that evening, Liara and Ethan walked through the palace gardens, their footsteps quiet on the crystal paths. The twin moons reflected off the fountains, casting shimmering light across the flowers. "You have changed everything today," Liara said softly. "Not just the battle, but how everyone will see you. And humans." Ethan looked at her, calm as ever. "Perhaps," he said, "but I did not do it to change anyone's opinion. I did it because it was necessary, because it was right." Liara smiled. She felt a deep admiration for him, not just for his power but for his humility and control. Here was a human who could wield extraordinary strength, yet he remained quiet, thoughtful and focused. "Do you think this will end the threat?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "No, this is only the beginning. The rebels will return, and others will come who want to challenge us, but we will be ready. We have learned something today, something more important than brute force. We have learned that calm, strategy, and understanding can be just as powerful as strength." Liara took his hand, a small gesture of connection and trust. "Then we will face them together," she said. Ethan nodded, his expression serious but calm. "Together," he agreed. As they stood in the quiet garden, the twin moons high above, a faint hum of energy pulsed from Ethan's blade. He did not notice it consciously, but it was a sign that his hidden power was still growing, waiting for the right moment to fully manifest. Far beyond the city, in the shadows of the mountains, eyes watched the palace from a distance. A mysterious figure observed Ethan with intense focus. This was no ordinary enemy. This observer had seen the human's power in action and recognized its potential threat. Plans began to form. Plans to confront the quiet human and test the limits of his strength. Liara, unaware of this new danger, returned to the palace beside Ethan. She felt safer with him by her side, yet she also sensed that trials were coming. Trials that would push Ethan to reveal even more of the power he had barely begun to understand. The quiet human she had married had already changed the outcome of the battle, and now the world was watching. The rebels might have been defeated, but the real test of his hidden power was yet to come, and when it did, Liara knew that Ethan would face it with the same calm, focused strength he had shown today, quiet, steady, and unstoppable in ways no one could yet imagine. The morning sky over Virelia was sharp and clear, yet the calm was deceptive. Word had spread of a mysterious figure moving through the mountains, an expert warrior and strategist, observing the city with intent. Liara stood on the palace balcony, her eyes scanning the horizon. She could feel the tension in the air, a storm approaching that would test everything she and Ethan had faced before. Ethan joined her silently, his dark eyes fixed on the distant mountains. "I can feel it," he said quietly. "This is different from the rebels. Someone more focused." Liara's grip tightened on the railing. "I thought we had seen the extent of your power, but I fear this will push you further." He nodded, calm as ever. "Then I will rise to meet it. That is all one can do." By midday, the palace alarms rang. Scouts reported a figure moving swiftly toward the city, a lone warrior with a strange aura, carrying a weapon unlike any Virelian design. This warrior moved with purpose, calculated steps, and an intensity that unsettled even the most experienced guards. Liara called the council together. "We face a new threat," she said. "A warrior unlike the rebels we defeated. We must act carefully. Ethan, I need you beside me." The council murmured, some incredulous that a human could face such a foe. But Liara ignored them. She had learned to trust Ethan's calm strength. As the mysterious figure approached the palace gates, Ethan and Liara prepared themselves. He drew his ceremonial blade, and immediately, the glow along its edge intensified, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed alive. The hidden power within him had grown stronger after each battle. Now it was awakening fully. The figure arrived at the palace courtyard with a commanding presence. Tall, armored, and exuding controlled energy, the warrior challenged Ethan with a glance that seemed to measure his every thought. "You are the human," the warrior said, voice sharp, almost metallic. "I have heard of your deeds. Let us see if your skill matches the stories." Ethan's lips pressed into a thin line. "I do not seek glory," he replied calmly. "Only resolution." The warrior lunged first, their weapons striking with blinding speed. Ethan moved with fluid precision, the blade in his hand deflecting every strike. The hidden energy within him responded instantly, extending his movements, increasing his speed, and allowing him to anticipate every attack. Liara watched, amazed. His quiet demeanor, his patience, his calm mind, all combined with this hidden power, making him a warrior unlike any she had seen. Each move was deliberate, calculated, yet effortless. The duel continued across the courtyard, the clashing of weapons ringing like music. Sparks flew as the warrior struck again and again, each attack more dangerous than the last. But Ethan remained calm, reading every motion, every intention. He did not rush. He did not panic. He waited for the right moment, and then it came. The warrior attempted a powerful strike aimed directly at Ethan's side. In a single motion, Ethan shifted his weight, his blade sweeping in a graceful arc. The energy within him surged outward, not violently, but with controlled force, creating a shockwave that disarmed the warrior and sent him stumbling backward. Liara gasped. She had never seen energy move like that, responding not to technology or magic, but to a human's focus and intent. The warrior recovered quickly, eyes narrowing in surprise and respect. "So this is the power of a human," he said. "I underestimated you." Ethan did not respond. He remained centered, calm, yet ready for anything. Each movement now seemed almost effortless, the blade an extension of his will. The hidden power that had been quietly building now flowed through him completely, a perfect balance of mind, body, and energy. The duel continued, but it was clear that Ethan was in control. The warrior's attacks became more cautious, each strike measured against Ethan's precise movements. It was not just strength that won this battle, it was patience, understanding, and the ability to remain calm when all else seemed chaotic. Liara felt a surge of pride. The human she had married, the quiet one, had revealed a power beyond what even the Virelians could understand. He was not just a warrior, he was a symbol of human potential, a living proof that quiet determination and focused skill could rival any brute force. Finally, with one controlled motion, Ethan disarmed the warrior completely. The strange weapon fell to the ground and the mysterious figure raised his hands in surrender. "I yield," the warrior said, breathing heavily. "You are truly remarkable. I see now what others could not." Ethan lowered his blade, the glow fading slightly. "Victory is not about dominance," he said quietly. "It is about balance, understanding, and protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Liara stepped forward, placing a hand on his arm. "You have done more than defeat an enemy," she said softly. "You have shown the world the true power of humans." The warrior nodded slowly, respect evident in his eyes. "I will carry this lesson. Humans are not what I expected. They are stronger than anyone realizes." Word of Ethan's victory spread quickly throughout Virelia. Citizens and guards alike whispered in awe, telling stories of the quiet human who had fought with unmatched skill and control. Even the council, who had doubted him for so long, could not hide their astonishment. Liara, standing beside Ethan in the palace gardens that evening, finally felt the full weight of what had happened. "You have changed everything," she said. "Not just with your power, but with your calm, your focus, and your understanding. You have shown everyone that strength is more than just muscle or flash. It is heart, mind, and courage combined." Ethan looked at her, his expression calm, almost shy. "I did what I had to," he said. "I did not seek recognition. That is not what strength is about. It is about doing the right thing, even when no one notices." Liara smiled, her eyes filled with admiration. She had always known there was more to him than met the eye. And now, the world knew as well. Humans, she realized, were underestimated too often, but with patience, intelligence, and courage they could achieve the impossible. Over the following days, the city returned to a fragile peace. The rebels were weakened, their plans disrupted, and the mysterious warrior had become an ally, teaching the Virelians to respect the human abilities they had ignored. Ethan continued to train quietly, refining his control over the hidden power within him, never flaunting it, never seeking attention, yet inspiring everyone around him. Liara observed him often, amazed by his calm strength. She realized that being married to him was not just a political arrangement, it was a partnership in the truest sense. Together they had faced danger, learned from each other, and shown the world that true power was not always loud or obvious. One evening, As the twin moons rose over Virelia, Liara and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The air was filled with the soft hum of the city and the distant glimmer of the mountains. "You are different from anyone I have ever known," Liara said softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "I am just human," he replied. "But humans can surprise. Quiet strength can become great power when the moment calls for it." Liara reached for his hand, a simple gesture filled with trust, respect, and admiration. "You have taught me more than any lesson I expected," she said. "Not about battle or power, but about courage, patience, and heart." Ethan's hand closed around hers gently. "Then we face the future together," he said. "Whatever comes, we face it side by side." And so the quiet human who had married the princess became more than a husband, more than a warrior. He became a symbol of human resilience and hidden power, a reminder that patience, understanding, and courage could achieve what brute force never could. The palace, the city, and even the council of Virelia now understood the truth. True strength was not always visible, and the quiet ones often carried the greatest power within them. As Ethan and Liara looked out over the city, the twin moons, casting their soft glow, they knew that challenges would come again. But together, they were ready. Together they were unstoppable, not because of arrogance or loud displays of force, but because of calm, focused hearts and minds united. The quiet human had unleashed a hidden power, and the world would never forget the lesson he had taught, that sometimes the quietest blade strikes the hardest and the calmest mind carries the greatest strength.